Welcome to the Diva D-Town. Welcome to the Diva D-Town, where bold, confident women embrace life unapologetically. From love and sex to wellness and reinvention, we keep it raw, real, and powerful. No filters, no limits. Just fearless conversations to help you thrive. Let's dive in with Diva Mia.
Well, this is Diva Mia. Today I want to talk about something that I think we have been taught to look at completely backwards, which is midlife. For years, women have been sold this idea that our 40s and 50s represent some kind of slowdown or decline. Our bodies change, relationships change, our kids grow and our careers shift, hormones change. But what happens is we change in a way that I don't think we actually recognized. Sometimes marriages end, sometimes careers end, but we look around at life and we've spent decades building, and we realize that even what we thought was possible may not be, and because maybe their path changed. So let's look at society, because society has created a term for it called midlife crisis. But what if it's not a crisis? What if it's just clarity into what you're looking for? What if, as a woman, you become in your 40s, 50s, 60s, etc., stronger because you finally had enough experience to understand who you are. You've had enough experience to know what you want and enough confidence to stop apologizing for it. And then enough urgency to stop wasting your time. Today, we're talking about the midlife reset. We're not going to call it a crisis. We're not trying to become 25 again. We don't want to desperately hold on to some type of past. We want to embrace who we are today. We want to love who we are today. Because intentionality and deciding what the next version of your life is going to be takes a little bit of effort and focus, because your 40s, 50s, etc. don't have to be the beginning of your decline. I can't tell you, I've got some friends that are in their 70s and they're competing in bodybuilding competitions. I know people that are resetting their entire world at 50. It might be the beginning of your strongest decade yet. You aren't starting over. One of the biggest mistakes we make during major life transition is telling ourselves that we have to start all over again. Maybe you broke up with a man, maybe you got a divorce, maybe your kids left home and you might be a widower. But you're not starting over. You're not, because you have so much experience now. There's an enormous difference from starting over at 25 to beginning again in your 50s. You might have had enough energy and ambition, but you probably didn't have the perspective that you have today or the knowledge. You hadn't experienced enough failure in your 20s to really know what you wanted. Now you've survived disappointment. You've learned what people deserved access to and which people don't. You hadn't learned how expensive bad decisions can become. And you also hadn't figured out which battles mattered and which ones weren't worth fighting for, or 5 minutes of your time. Now you know. You've loved people. You've lost people. You've trusted people and trusted the wrong people. You made mistakes, and suddenly you have succeeded at things you once thought were impossible. You've survived situations that younger you would never have survived or would have been terrified to even face. This isn't baggage. This is data and data collection. I've talked about data collection quite often, and in midlife, you have a lot of data that you've collected. Midlife gives you something that your younger youth could not give you. It's perspective. And perspective can become an incredible advantage if you actually use it. All the failures were actually true lessons. There's another transition that happens around this age, and that doesn't get discussed very much, but for decades, women are often defined by their roles. We were daughters, and then wives, and then mothers, sometimes employees and business owners or caregivers. But we spend so much of our time being something for somebody else that eventually a very simple question becomes surprisingly difficult. Who am I? When I'm not taking care of everyone else, who am I? That question can feel very uncomfortable. Who do you want to be? But it's one of the most important questions you have to ask yourself. What do you like? What do you want? What does your ideal day look like? And what does your ideal body feel like? You need to determine how you want to live. You need to determine what you want and which people you want to have around you. You get to choose. You get to create a life that you dreamed about on your terms. And if there's things you haven't done yet, maybe traveled, started a business, gone to different places, maybe the biggest question is, nobody else's opinion matters now, so what will you do now? That's where the reset happens. That's where the reset begins. You know, it's not a new wardrobe or a new relationship or a dramatic announcement that you're going on a trip on social media. It starts with just knowing yourself. It's a reset of who you are. And letting the old version of you go, you have to allow yourself to change. And sometimes letting the old version of you, it feels like a death because growth requires something that sounds simple, but it can actually be incredibly difficult. It feels like the old you is dying and you're creating a new you. Sometimes we stay loyal to the old versions of ourselves way longer than we need to. Maybe you've always been the accommodating one, the people pleaser, the dependable one, the person that never says no, and now you want to choose a different path. Now, instead of making everyone else happy, you want to make yourself happy, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you stay and work because everybody realizes you're not a quitter, that's not a way to make yourself happy if you're miserable. Women who tolerate things because we don't want to disappoint others is not a good way to live. At some point, you have to ask, is this actually who I am? Or is this simply who I've trained myself to be? Did I people please and put up with things I should never have allowed in my life? Did I allow little things and turned into big things because I allowed it? There are habits that help to survive earlier periods of our lives that may no longer serve us. Growth isn't always about adding something. Sometimes it's about subtraction. In fact, this month is my month of no. I just recently went through a breakup, and I have decided that this month I'm just saying no. Everybody's been coming at me with new requests because they heard that I was single. My month is my month of no. I just don't want to do anything else. I'm doing plenty of things that I like to do. Whenever anybody asks me to do something else or go on a date, this is my month of no. I just want to take time for me. If I can say no to all the other little things that everybody wants me to do and just be myself, it's a much healthier relationship for me because I need to take time for me. And there's nothing wrong with that. You'll find that you'll have fewer unhealthy relationships when you have a month of no, fewer excuses and no reason to impress people. We only have one life. So when you waste it with the wrong people, the people that don't treat you with respect or treat you well, you're wasting your time and valuable energy. The fewer people that you let into your life, the less energy you have to expend on people that don't deserve it. Maybe a few more boundaries might be good as well, because when we have boundaries, we do protect ourselves better. The other thing is your body is changing, but it's not finished. You've got decades more to go in midlife to have such a fun body. Because yes, bodies change and our hormones change and muscle mass may decline, but it doesn't have to. Your sleep can change, but it doesn't have to. You can improve all of this because your metabolism, body composition, it's changed, but it's just different. It doesn't mean it's done. It actually means that the decades you became far more intentional about your health. Now you have to focus on your health, but that's okay. Maybe exercising in your 20s was bouncing around. Now it's lifting weights and walking or doing yoga and strength and exercise and stretching. All of those things help with your energy and your independence. You may want to travel now. Pick up your grandchildren. If you have to carry your own damn suitcase, there's nothing wrong with being alone if you decide that that is the way you want to go. You get to choose. Don't let anybody stop you. And a lot of women at this age start new businesses. They write a book. They reach out to family and friends, and they travel around. There's nothing wrong with any of that. And yes, you can still look incredible. You can look better now than you did in your 20s or 30s. There's nothing exclusive about being 20 versus being 50 that says you can't be in the best shape of your life. The goal is to build a body capable of carrying you through the next 60, 70 years. Yes, I said 60 or 70 because we're all going to live over to 100, at least we hope so. So you might as well work on your body now if you haven't done so already. But dedication will become your superpower because you can. Here's something I've learned about reinvention. Motivation is very overrated because it's wonderful when it shows up, but it doesn't always show up. So dedication and discipline does. And there will be mornings when you don't want to exercise, but you got to go anyway. There's mornings where you don't want to work on your business, but you got to do it anyway. And I always say do the most difficult thing first so you get it out of the way so it's not weighing on you the whole day. Your strongest decade won't be built by what you do when you're motivated. It's going to be built by what you do when you're disciplined and consistent and showing up every day, because that's what dedication is. And one advantage of getting older is that hopefully we've learned something about our younger selves and that we didn't used to fully understand, is that time is going to pass anyway. You might as well use it to your benefit. You can spend the next 3 years thinking about changing your life, or you can get started today and spend the next 3 years actually changing it. Either way, 3 years from now is going to happen. So you get to choose. If you could look back at yourself 3 years from now and say, oh my gosh, look at all the accomplishments I made. Why don't you look forward and say, what do you want to be in 3 years? What do you want to be in 6 months? There's a tremendous amount of freedom that can come with midlife. You start realizing how much of your younger life was spent asking for permission from people that didn't have power over you. You cared more about people that approved of you, that something might be too embarrassing or you judging. I think women in our 40s and 50s, we're empowered. We are ourselves, and if people don't like it, they can move on. If someone treats you badly, leave. You don't need to stick around. And then when you go back to thinking about yourself, you get to wear whatever dress you want. You get to dress however you want. Take that trip. Go back to school. Build some muscle. Start dating again. I mean, there are so many people out there to date that you don't need to be single if you don't want to. And then reinvent yourself. Whatever you want to do. Your life does not require approval from anyone because you deserve time for you because you've done a lot for others for a very long time. Women are unique with this. Yes, men do things for women as well, but we are the primary caregivers of our children in general. When we're the primary caregivers, we're giving. It's about time you start giving back to yourself. And here's the other thing that's truthful. Relationships are going to change when you start to know yourself. When you know you are in a relationship, you may accept relationships based on potential. If you're uncertain about yourself, you may see in the other person their potential and hope that they will grow into it and stick around probably for longer than you need to. You see what someone could become. You imagine what the relationship could be, a future with that person. But you explain away behavior just because you're focused on the future instead of the person standing in front of you. You allow things, disrespect and disloyalty to occur for no purpose because midlife should teach you to pay attention to reality and what is and who they are. Does this person bring you peace or chaos? Are their actions consistent with their words? Because so many people will say one thing and do something completely different. I must say, you need to respond. And when you feel something is off, believe it. Even if you can't put your finger on it, it may be telling you something is wrong. And you may need to do further investigation. Do they take responsibility for their actions or are they always blaming someone else or something else? I will say people that constantly make excuses and are constantly complaining about other people, you have to be a little weary. Knowing yourself means knowing that what belongs in your life and what does not. You need to eliminate things that don't belong there because you have such limited time. A reset can't just be about what you've learned. It can't be just about what you're leaving. It needs to be a new vision. You need someone or something to be moving towards. So this is goal setting as well. Think about 5 years from now, not vaguely, but truly picture it. Think about 1 year from now. What do you want 1 year from now? How does your body look? Where do you live? What do you do every morning? What lifestyle do you want? What do your finances look like? And do you have a relationship or are you alone? Some people prefer to be single, then they don't have to deal with the stress of their partners. And what will you no longer tolerate in your life? If you've been through a divorce or are a widow or been through some relationships where you tolerated things that you didn't like, what would you change? And then reverse engineer who you are in the future and see what steps you need to take to magically get that to happen. Because what will happen is if you start making steps to your future self, you might be surprised. You might get there before you think. If you're listening to this and thinking, oh my gosh, where do I start? Let's start with the 5 areas. The first one to think about is your body. Our body and our minds are very strongly tied together, but let's think of our body. What do you need to change so that in 5 years, you're stronger, you look better, and you look the way you want to look? And then move on to your mind. What are you still believing about yourself that isn't serving you? Is there something like a limiting belief or something that you would change about your mind? Is there some education you need to take? What would you change about your mind? And then your relationships. Who deserves more of your time and who deserves less? If there's someone that's making you uneasy or bringing you chaos or just giving you anxiety, maybe that's not the right relationship for you. And then your purpose. What do you still want to build, create, and experience or contribute to the world? Because we have a lot to contribute in our 50s. We're not done yet. And then your environment. Does your current life support the person you're trying to become? If it does, choose one measurable action you can take in each area. If you choose an action to take in each area, not 50, just one, or every 3 months you do another action in each area, because transformation isn't usually one massive decision. It's usually a bunch of small ones repeated until your life completely looks different. Little baby steps, if you will. The woman you're becoming is incredibly powerful, and you're reaching the point where you know yourself. So stop chasing people. Stop trying to convince people to be loyal to you or respect you. If they don't, let them go. And don't shrink yourself to fit into a relationship. You know, when you're in a relationship and if you start to minimize yourself, that's probably a sign that that relationship is not the best one for you. Because you can't confuse attention with love, because a lot of people will give attention and not really love you. And that's true. And sometimes love isn't even enough. So just because someone's busy, that doesn't mean you're being productive. So realize just because you're busy and working hard, how productive truly are you? Can you be more productive and more focused? Eliminate the social media crap. The social media stuff is a very big distraction, and it'll take you from your common purpose or your purpose that you want to grow into in your life. And you'll become much more selective where your time goes. We do have less of it now. We're getting closer to our expiration date, whatever that date may be. So focus your time where it's most valuable, because eventually you understand that something completely changes how you live, is that time is the one thing you cannot earn back. Money can be replaced, careers can be rebuilt, but you can't get the time back. Relationships can change, they can fall apart, they can get back together, but homes and time is the one thing you don't have. But you cannot purchase another Tuesday from 15 years ago or reset stuff. Once the time is spent, it's gone, and you can't get it back. It's not depressing, it's empowering, because that forces you to ask, what deserves the rest of my life? So maybe you're 50, 55, or 60, and maybe your life looks nothing like you thought it would be. That's okay, because that means the story's not finished. You're allowed to change the plan, restart, be ambitious, get healthier, stronger, and live longer. What you have allowed in your life, you don't have to allow anymore. You can want more or want less. And you are allowed to build a completely different life than the one you imagined when you were younger. So just realize midlife isn't about desperately trying to hold on to what you used to be. It's about finally having enough experience to intentionally decide who you're going to become. So don't ask yourself whether your best years are behind you. Ask a better question. What could I build with the next 10 years if I stopped underestimating myself? If I let fear go away and I just went for it? Because your strongest decade may not be the one already lived. It may be the one you're walking into right now. This is your midlife reset. And this time you get to build it knowing exactly who you are. This is Diva Mia. Stay strong, stay glowing, and have a wonderful life. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment. We love hearing from you. Visit thedivadetails.com to connect. See you next week for more.
Diva Details podcast and website are intended solely for informational and entertainment purposes. The content provided does not constitute professional, medical, financial, or legal advice. We are not licensed medical practitioners, financial advisors, or legal professionals. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Any financial topics discussed are based on personal opinions and experience and should not be considered professional advice. The content provided does not constitute legal advice. The Diva Details and its affiliate contributors and guests are not liable for any losses or damages arising from the use of our content. The opinions expressed in the podcast are solely those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of any affiliated organization, sponsors, or partners. While facts discussed in the podcast are researched and accurate to the best of our knowledge at the time of recording, information may change over time. No guarantees are made regarding the accuracy, completeness, or reliability of any statements or opinions presented. It is the responsibility of the listener to verify any and all facts that may influence their decision. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice.